I think that one going, yeah, I think we're live. Welcome everybody. Hi, how are you? I think I'm good to go here. If I have any technical problems, please let me know. Let us see. I am trying to get back to this. Bear with me. You should be seeing the profitable real estate agent plan stuff now. And so, welcome everybody. This is the profitable real estate agent plan. And this is, believe it or not, week 9. So the next couple of weeks, we run into the holidays. So we won't be having calls over the next couple of weeks, but we will resume and wrap up in the first couple weeks after that. But we're already in week 9 here as we go through this. And I was just working on YouTube and trying to clean up the playlist, get them up onto the Realty Classroom YouTube channel for all of you that watch YouTube, or all of you in here. I would recommend the easiest way to go back and look at them in the future is not going to be to go get the Zoom link. It's going to be to go into the YouTube channel and just, I'm making a playlist. So if you want to go through them, skip through them, I'm going to clean them up. I promise. I promise. I was just doing it at, thanks to my good friend ChatGPT, I can move through quicker. But just as a reiteration of where we've been and where we'll go to finish this round, we talked about in week 1 how this model was built, very, very much predicated on Michael Gerber's book. Week 2, thanks to our good friend Brian Tracy and his book Goals, amongst his other books, we set a financial goal. And for all of you that were here live or you want to go back and watch it, at the end of these calls, I get very tactical, but this is a strategic plan we lay out first. But of course, I know you want to know how, so we give you some of the teasers into that. Third week, I don't even know if I shouldn't be starting off with this next time. I might move this order of things around. We really have had a lot of good conversation about mindset lately. And it's not just random mindset. It's identifying the fact that there is indeed a massive problem in this resistance that's internal. It is up against our creative as an entrepreneurial real estate agent. And then there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics that really gives you how to program your subconscious to move in a thriving direction and not get stuck in that resistance. Week 3, really important. Week 4, we start to make the bend into marketing, and we talk about the difference between content marketing, social media marketing. There's always that confusion because we've now been biased by a world that keeps talking about content, but yet it's all blended in so much with these social media platforms. We think it's one and the same, and it's not at all. In fact, content starts physical, right? I mean, it's a physical thing that you want to be paying attention to making. And we blend that week with the following week and show you the unique selling proposition content package, also known as an information product. So those two really dovetail, where we talk about the types of content we create. Then we show you physically how we create it and how that launches this unique selling proposition methodology. Unique selling propositions are an interesting thing. If you've ever learned about them even a little bit, they can be confusing because you can think it's a statement. You can think it's a one-off thing you give away, when I would argue it's more of a unique way of doing business. Of course, how you set that up in the beginning makes all the difference, that you're continuously seen as unique. And I believe that has worked extremely well for me by starting with that strategy, navigating that, and being unique. But just because you do all these things correctly and you arrive at this place where you're in a good competitive position, a unique competitive position, doesn't mean it matches with everybody. I remember when it's like getting all dressed up to go to the dance and not having a date, right? You have to have the right one. Just because you have a brand new suit and you're out there, it doesn't mean that it's a match for everybody. Sorry, I swallowed a fly. I'm kidding. Swallowed some dust. But the point being is that you need to really understand, just because you have the goods, it's not a match for everybody. And that concept of a marketing avatar or an ideal contact, I'll say contact because we get into that too in this course, where a contact is the core asset that's running through your business. Somebody's full contact information, their name, their telephone number, their mailing address, their email address, that's a contact. And the ideal contact has context. Okay. The ideal contact has context to sell or buy a property. So that's why when we go into leads, we also say, listen, ideal is not just somebody who has context to sell or buy. It's somebody who has context to sell. And we want to lead the lead generation per se with those particular people. We don't want to be in denial of that. Don't want to say, well, I'll just do buyers to begin with, or I'll just do rentals, all these things that you hear that throw somebody right out of the business model that was discussed in week one here. The business works based on a multiple listing service that houses what? Listings. Who belong to whom? Sellers, not buyers. So the buyers are sort of the fries in this concept of burgers and fries in this business model, which is supposed to be like a franchise prototype, like a McDonald's, where we're setting this up with this strategic plan for you to copy it, literally copy it, not to make it your own. And, again, make it your own means, of course, it's you, but it's a system that's running you. So nobody knows you and I are running the same system because they see us. But we're keeping ourselves inside the systematic place where we're trying to become good listing agents first, and then using those listings just like the Zillow would to attract buyers. Let that sink in, right? I mean, Zillow steals your listings from you and then uses them to attract buyers. So why don't you just go get listings and attract buyers, and you get a whole happy meal? Okay. So that's where we talk about leads. But then it gets even deeper. Okay, so now you've got this unique selling proposition methodology. You know what content is properly. Now you've picked the best leads that you think you can to be profitable, but you don't really know how to say, what to say. So I think that becomes probably one of the places where I'm really adamant about being exacting, because I have spent an enormous amount of time over a very long period of time. I would tell you, I started listening to recorded calls somewhere back in 2003. So put that in perspective as we near 2026. It's been a long time. That means my ear is very trained to hear the subtleties and what really matters. And to come to the realization myself too, that I couldn't be in denial that a script is far better than any great, and I'm saying great, real estate salesperson selling on their own. I know that because I've done it both ways. There's no comparison. Me with a script would slaughter me without a script. It's just not even a fair fight. That's how important the words are, and to be precise with them and to make these offers. And the irony about that is it sounds like it might put you in this grip where you're losing all your individuality. And the irony is that what I have learned is it actually frees up more of your individuality, because you're not winging it and you're not getting lost and frustrated and having to circle back. It's just such a smooth stairway that actually more of you is coming out, and you can be more humane and more involved on a human level. And that leads us to tonight. So all of that is going to work, period. It's just going to work. And so as it works, we're going to create prospects. Not leads, prospects. And I wish somebody, this is a really important topic for me tonight, because I wish somebody, I said this jokingly today, had dropped one of those cartoon anvils on my head. And I had this awakening moment that a prospect was something very special to a profitable real estate agent business, and a good prospect at that. And so look at all the weeks that we set up to get to this one phase where the creation of a really good prospect can change your life in this business. And it can make a business that is very unpredictable, predictable, and more importantly, sustainable over many years. And you can take it from me. I've been sustaining myself in this business now for 26 years. It's a long time, right? And so what I would say is, you really want to understand that there's always a linchpin. Now, of course, everything matters. I can't just sit here and tell you about the first cheer violin and not reference the rest of the orchestra, which we did. And we build. Everything's a crescendo, as they would say in the orchestra, right? We're building to this beat that's higher when we produce this happy past client, and everything is great because we get paid. We get a return on investment. But everything's building and building and building. It's building a momentum of a strategic approach versus just winging it tactically. So you get to this point, and the greatest shame at this point is that so many of you, and especially top producers, can create a good prospect only to lose them inside of your own pen, also known as your database, your contact pipeline manager, whatever you want to refer to it. You lose them in there. And I know that because I have lost them, and I have lost them through poor database management skills. So we'll talk a little bit about that segmentation tonight, but that's how we arrive at this prospect thing. But I will promise you, those of you that understand the value of creating a good solid prospect based on a clean definition, I'll go back to that anvil moment. I wish somebody had told me that a prospect was somebody that I knew why they were moving. I knew how motivated on a scale of 1 to 10 they were, and they actually were consuming the information I was sharing with them. If I could have had that simple definition of that prospect, I would have not been lost in this misperception that the word prospect was an ugly word that meant, oh, you have to cold call people. It's terrible. It's terrible what happens to all of us when we don't get clear definitions of proper business and proper business concepts, because we can go many, many years not understanding that simple concept that when you move a contact from a disposition of lead, you're simply learning why they're moving, how motivated they are, and that they'll accept your information. And then that qualifies them to come into your world where you protect them. And that's tonight's call. Okay. So let me bring that up. And I am going to share this tab. I don't know what happened. Hold on. Something found its way. So let me start the slideshow here. And then again, as you know, when you come to these calls, I'm happy to answer calls. These subjects aren't hard. I don't make them complex, but I know that when you see them for the first time and you're trying to understand this orchestration of these 12 steps, that you might have questions about something in the past. You might have questions about tonight or where the course is going. And I haven't heard this, or I forgot that. It's okay. And if you're a little bit nervous about speaking up in a group of people online, just type it in the chat so that when I get there, it's sitting there for me. I can see it and I will answer it. And if you want to be anonymous, you can tell me that too. And I'll just talk about the subject you're interested in. All right. I want it to be a safe environment of learning. There'll be plenty of times where you have to face the demons that scare you when you're talking to real people out there that are sellers and buyers. And I'm empathetic to that. In fact, I made a massive gear shift for those of you that were on the calls this week. I made a massive gear shift and accepted that I know when I'm coaching, I'm up against your animal brain that's going to make you not believe things I say, not do things I ask you to do. I've made that deal with the devil. So I'm telling you that I am interested in making this so stupid simple that you can feel brave enough to take a step into an arena where you're uncomfortable. Okay. So this is safe in here. So you can ask anything. There's no such thing as a dumb question. In fact, that's the one I'm looking for. Okay. So away we go. You should be seeing a slide that says, are you guarding your prospects against the wolves? And if not, scream bloody murder. Okay. So are you guarding your prospects against the wolves? We start with, and this is what I teased a little bit. It's interesting that when I get to this call, it's really about management of a data, right? Base, or a better and the best definition I've ever heard is this one here, the working definition of a CRM, which actually should say contact relationship manager. And the reason I say that is because I recognized getting above the business, and thank God for Michael Gerber's book, and just meeting him and then thinking about Henry Ford and a lot of these other things that I enjoy because I'm very visual and I need that theater of the mind vision for this. I like getting up above our business and trying to see it holistically and how it works. And when I did that, I realized it was no different from Henry Ford assembly line, which is why I like that. And by the way, Napoleon Hill, who wrote Law of Success biblically thick and then condensed it down, the best ideas from it into what the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. That whole concept, a lot of that was influenced by Henry Ford. Hill was a very, very big fan of Ford's work and how that all worked, and spent a lot of time learning from him, even though it was Andrew Carnegie who introduced him to all these people. And there were other people that had big impact on him, but certainly it was Ford. And so if you imagine yourself in an old Ford plant, I could always imagine that the management at a warehouse was up in a glass room, and that the assembly line and the whole business of tactical work was out in front of that management group that could look down and oversee, right? So when you see that, you see things moving probably left to right is the way I imagine things. And so as they move left to right, they became assembled and they became this product at the end that rolled out the door and was sold. Money came back in. So why can't our business be productized like that? I thought. But I had to imagine what's the raw material that's being built upon, and that's a contact, right? So, and it might be built upon. You might have a first name and an email address off of an internet, situation, and that can be about as thin soup as you can get. You can even get that same thing not just from the internet, but an open house. You could get somebody's first name and an email address because that's all they wanted to give you, and they said it was okay to engage them. So sometimes over time, that contact is going to build, right? You're going to build that contact into a fully formed contact, which again, I will tell you includes full name or names if there are multiple decision makers, a mailing address. I mean, we talked about this in the unique selling proposition section and content marketing. I'm on you to make physical product and mail it to people and or hand it to them, but mail it to people. And I want you to understand how critically important it is that that kind of marketing exists as a primary source in your business. But how are you going to do that if you don't have the person's mailing address, right? So it's important to acquire mailing address. Then, of course, the telephone. You're not going to do much in this business without a telephone, right? So that's really what's going to happen there. So now, in addition to that, an email address is the obvious thing. We're going to be able to, go through all of that as well, right? So that's what a contact relationship manager is. It's a thing where these contacts go and they evolve. Now, the primary advantage of using one, and so all you Griffin and TRCers that are in here, you know that we give you the contact pipeline manager, which was my vision for a properly functioning contact relationship manager. I had it built out by our 800-pound brain, Serena. I told her this is what I want it to visually look like so that we can get the dopamine going, so we can attach these names to potential money. And I'll get into that tonight. And I'll show that at the end of the call and talk about how that's a dopamine reaction that we need from our CRM. And most CRMs don't really do that well, and they bury it. Okay. But the primary advantage of actually using a contact relationship manager is it helps you segment your lists of leads, prospects, and clients. So let's get into that. So this contact that's running as the base for the manufacturing of this happy past client, ultimately, that we want to create, it's going to go through these dispositions. And only one of them is a prospect. And that's our focus tonight. But I want to make it very clear that when we introduce the leads, that's contact information too, with the disposition of a lead. And what I mean by disposition is, what do we know about the qualitative piece of that? Is there a real why? Is there a real motivation? And are they even interested in talking to us? Well, those are the criteria if somebody wants to pass from the disposition of lead into prospects. And when they do that, we need to know the difference between them. Because in the future, if we're prospecting all the time and trying to create prospects out of these leads, it's going to work if we do it the right way through these methodologies, and we're going to have a pile of prospects in the database. But if we can't tell the clear difference between leads and prospects, our workflow will not be organized the right way. Now, obviously, once a prospect becomes a client, they become of the utmost importance. And if I take that group right there, I call that my conversion module, okay? So I'm converting them from a lead to trash, prospect, right, to trash, or client, right? So they either go lead, prospect, client, or they go lead, trash, or they could even get to a prospect where they had those things and then their plans changed. And they're definitely not going to do something, and out they go. So we have to clean as we go the waste in this manufacturing plant, but I need that segmentation. Because as I've said with an assembly line in this conversion module, you build it left to right. So you build all this mechanism to talk to a lead, to give it the unique selling proposition, bring it to the prospect, follow up with all the, the additional digital and physical information and scripting. But you don't work it that way. And let me explain. If I come to work tomorrow and I have to go into my contact relationship manager, what's the most important thing to take care of? The client. Client who wants to write an offer on a house if they're buying. Client who's gotten an offer on their house if they're selling. Client who's just, just listed the house and needs immediate attention to book the first open house. Well, all of that's prioritized. That gets done first. So you see what I said is we built it to move them left to right, but we work it right to left because the clients are most important. And that brings us back to the prospects, because the prospects are the people that need, and you hear a lot of this nurturing. Okay. Well, I don't really know what nurturing is. It's another one of those nebulous words we love to throw around in our business. I like follow up. I need to follow up with my prospects, get them updated content in the mail at a frequency of, well, like the maximum would be every 3 months. The next one in would be every other month. And the next one in would be every month. I'm getting a prospect something physically in the mail, right? The pictures and details of properties that sold around theirs and the market update. Same for buyers, but I would throw in some for sales, but they're going to get it physically. But they can get it digital. Nope, they're going to get it physically, because that's the whole thing that keeps me in this unique lane, because I gave it to them, I promised them up front that that's what was going to happen to be unique. So those people need that, and they need to follow it, because they need to be reminded. Those prospects need to be reminded it's me, that I'm doing this. Then I could get to my leads. And that's the way it works. But sometimes that animal brain and that resistance is, oh, we got to get on these leads. Or they're pouring in. We're paying all this money for them, and they're pouring. No, that's not where you make money first, right? The leads aren't going anywhere. They're there. And you can't do business with all of them anyway, but you can do business with every one of your clients. And you can protect your real prospects, because there's just fewer and fewer, right? So the fewest are clients, the fewer are prospects, if this is working correctly. And then there's too many leads, okay? So the most critical list segment to make your business predictable and sustainable is what I just said. It's a clean list of prospects, because therein lies the development of your future business. Now, sometimes clearly we get lucky, right? Clearly somebody comes out of nowhere and there's an ugly circumstance, and all of a sudden those circumstances that were unpredictable in a business context to us, we're out of our control. Somebody picks up and said, oh, geez, I just lost somebody and I can't afford this house. I got to get it on the market. Or the divorce decree that came through, I have to get this done by the end of the month. I'm giving you real deals that I'm thinking of, right? These are real things that happen. So those things can happen. And just because you simply do the right thing and you get these listings, I got a text on Thanksgiving, and I'm going to close on that house with that double-ended buyer on the 30th of the month. So that's some times when leads can become prospects really fast and become a client. I mean, I'm talking that was like 3 days. But if we ever predicated or built a business on that to hopefully get that lucky and have serendipity running the business, there's just no way there's enough of it. And especially if you want to make this a serious piece of your life and an intentional business, that's just not what you're going to rely on. So you have to constantly be thinking as a business person, I need to be in the business of new business development on the listing side, especially. So, hey guys, can you mute that mic, please? Thank you. So, and don't be distracted, please, right? Like, listen to me. So the point being is that when you look at this stuff, your prospects, that's the cushion. That's the thing that is predicting your future. So when I do my one-on-one coaching lately, I've been saying, how's your first quarter going to be? Huh? The market's pretty, no. How's your first quarter going to be? And that brings them right back to this. It can be used as a full contact relationship manager. It can be used as that. But there's a spreadsheet we have, because I can show you tonight, and will, very specific multi-million dollars worth of prospects. Now, I'm not going to tell you any of them or all of them will close in this year. I know they're on there. I know some of them will bubble up and close, and some of them are pretty big, and they can change the trajectory of the hitting that financial goal by quite a bit, because there's a leap there. We keep getting more and more expensive ones to come to us. but I have to be realistic too about those. So I'm able to go in there right now on December 17th and tell you we're looking pretty good, but I haven't seen the newer ones come through from lead to prospect. So we're really driving on that team, and we're just going to add our third telemarketer. I think we're pretty keen on somebody. So we'll have 3 people trying to get more of those prospects, because prospects, just because they fit it, they can be longer term. And we're so good at follow-up. I will allow my team to be in the follow-up business for, somebody who's might be 2, maybe even 36 months out. I'm not recommending it for you. You should be 6 months or in 12 months maximum, but we're so good at it that we're able to carry some of these really good properties and stay in touch, because it doesn't take us a lot of effort to do so. But that clean list of prospects, knowing those names, doing those drive-bys, understanding those people, and some of them, visiting with them beforehand or during this, and still keeping them as prospect because they're not ready to become a client. That's also important. So how do you define this? We said it. A prospect has a real reason to move and a high level of motivation to do so in the next 6 to 12 months maximum for you. That's why I said, until you get good at this, keep it inside there. You just don't have the capacity to focus on all this. And they are open to your providing them with property and market updates. Okay, that's important. As time goes on, we're going to be saying we're going to be continuously following up with you in addition to the original package, right? So now we have them. Now what? Now what do we do, right? Well, you must communicate with them at that frequency, which is what I was talking about, every month, bi-monthly, or quarterly with the mailers, okay? So it has to match their timing. This is very much of a Goldilocks moment. So this is the place where not human discretion per se, there's a framework on the stuff that goes to them, right? But we have to get with these people and follow up with our market insights that speaks to their specific interests, right? So I think that's really what you have to do. And the market insight comes in the form of that content, right? So we go all the way back to content. If I give them an updated market newsletter, okay, I might not have to give it to them every single month if that's pestering them. It's a very delicate thing with prospects. Prospects pursued, run away, goes the saying. So we need to make sure we're giving them our market insights that meet their interests at a frequency that matches their timing. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? If somebody tells us they're 12 months out from even considering it, okay, well, then that feels like quarterly would be enough. They're going to get at least 3 quarterlies before they're even serious, right? So they're going to get a original package too, by the way. I have to say this. In my world, you're not even a prospect if you have not received an original package physically of information. And a lot of people say, well, it's a lot of don't be in this business if you can't spend some money on a physical product, information product. Just don't be in this business. I mean, borrow it from somewhere, because it's so inexpensive to make a seller 7-step plan, to go into MLS, which you already pay for, and print out pictures and details of 5 properties that sold around theirs, including a map. And then to have a 1-page market update done for you is so inexpensive. It's incredible, right? Like, it's hard for me to believe it's so inexpensive to have that much of an impact. Well, that's the original package. But once they become a prospect and they've consumed that package and they're not quite ready, we're going to have to continuously send the dynamic pieces of this that continue to add that insight, right? So that insight is going to come from that 1-page market update and the pictures and details updated that sold. So you're updating them on the dynamics because it's in their interest to see that. So it's hard for them, assuming they're the avatar, meaning they have a real reason why down the line, they're motivated down the line, and they're accepting of you. This is very helpful. And what you're doing by doing this to the prospect is you're reminding them to stay under your protection. That's what you're reminding them of. And that's what marketing is in a follow-up context. It's a reminder that, number one, you were that good person that gave them all that good stuff in the beginning that they liked. But the minute that you left, they atrophy. Life happens. I mean, we're so confused and distracted. So many things happen that we just can't quite get there, right? So that's how it works, right? Now, what's the best strategy for building this loyalty of these people so they don't, quote unquote, cheat on you? By the way, let's dispel that myth. Prospects don't cheat on you. They were either let into your world and they weren't really a prospect and they just left, or you neglected them and they left. It's one or the other. So they don't cheat. It's just that you weren't good enough at culling the herd before they even got into your world, or you didn't feed them. One or the other. Okay. I'm not saying that this is not the rare occasion that somebody just flips out and leaves for some bizarre reason. Everybody seems a little bit unhinged these days, but that's not the far majority of the time. Far majority is you're talking to someone that's not really a prospect and never was, and you deluded yourself, or you just didn't feed them. And it's usually the latter once you get good at this, right? So build that loyalty by never relying on digital delivery of property and market information. Always include regular direct mail and phone follow-up. See, what you're making, it's almost like you have to make sure that your sheep eat, right? Your sheep eat. Your prospects are your sheep, and the wolves, primary ones, are your neglect or you didn't do a good job. I just told you how you can be a wolf yourself. Let the wrong ones in the pen or neglect them. You'll eat them first. But I will tell you, if you neglect them and you don't continue to feed them, somebody else will be happy to jump the fence and steal one of them, right? There's no doubt about it. And you won't lose your prospects to a better agent. You do all this, you are the better agent. You're the organized, strategic, tactical player. But the minute you neglect them, the agent or the wolf of the moment will take them. Let's imagine this scenario. You get a good prospect, you give them a physical package of information, an open house or referral or whatever, you telemarket them and you send it. And you're in that good moment, you can feel it. And they really appreciate, my gosh, thank you so much. You took a lot of time. I'm just not ready for 12 months. Great. What I'll do to keep you updated is I will continue to send you the dynamic pieces of this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to add a layer. I am going to do it digitally because out of the MLS system, you can have the solds in real time and they'll be right in your inbox. And then digitally, I do send a copy of my newsletter out to my contact relationship manager, everybody in there segmented. So you'll get one of those. However, to ensure that it arrives, because I know 50% of the time that might not get to you, I'm going to mail you an updated package. Oh, don't go out of your way to do that. No. It's necessary because otherwise you're just not going to get the information reliably. So I'm going to mail this to you at a frequency that makes sense. I understand you're not going to be ready for 12 months. So I'm going to send it quarterly for the first 3 times. And then I'm going to touch base each time to make sure you're getting it, that and the digital stuff. And as long as you're getting it, great. And we can increase the frequency. But remember, more importantly, as we get closer to the time you're going to list, it is important for me to come back out, see the property, give you the tips on what to do and what not to do to get the top dollar. And I will analyze the most current solds to show you what I think you would sell for and what you'd walk away with after all expenses. So you have to always not just remind them that you're the good person giving them the data, but what's next, even when it's down the line. So let's say that Sally's going to list, sometime 12 months out from now. I'm going to get her the digital and physical information. I'm going to read a very specific follow-up script for follow-up, prospect follow-up. I'm going to stick to the script because I'm going to remember that I have to make sure she's consuming the food physically and digitally. And I have to make sure she's still on target for that time she said, in the case it changed, and then remind her that when she's closer to ready, I'll be out to do these things, right? So there you have it. It's not rocket science, but you need some tools to do so. So that's why a contact relationship manager in its simplest form, and I know most of you in here are Griffins or TRCers, you got to have some sort of a simplistic form. I don't even care if you use a complicated thing like Follow Up Boss, but I was looking at one of my coaching clients today, my one-on-one clients, and the admin, who's his brother, said, there's no way I can make sense of this. It's a mess. So I'm going to use your contact relationship manager, your contact pipeline manager, was what we call it. I'm going to use that for just the prospects for it. And I said, voila, that's exactly what you do, right? Woo. Okay, so that's that. Let's go to Q&A. I will come over here. Let me just make sure I'm not showing anything here. And I am happy to answer any questions from anybody here. So fire away, and we'll go from there. Yep. Yeah. Did you drive by? You're gonna drive by though, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, you're gonna do what you can do, and you're gonna have the pictures of it too on your phone when you meet with her. So you're gonna say, "Yeah, I drove by it. Here are the pictures I took, and obviously, without getting in it, I can't refine this." And then you just go through everything else, right? It's just yeah, yeah, just that you keep it to what you can do, but it's still the same, formula that you're following. I mean, it's identical. In other words, "Hey, thanks so much for meeting me. Obviously, we're not going to be able to see the property, but I did do my drive by. So I took some pictures. Here they are. I like this. I like that. Right. So now you just act as if you're in the house. So, or you've just done your walkthrough because you're not going to be able, that's missing. Right. So now you say, so let me get this straight. When we talked, you were thinking about selling it because of this. So you reiterate her why. And on a scale of 1 to 10, you felt like that. Is that still the case? Okay, good. Well, in the case that you're deciding to sell it, let me just go over these 7 steps with you and tell you our formulaic approach to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't forget, before I go through this, is there anything most important about selling your house? And she says a thing. So if you can relate that important thing to one of the 7 steps, that's what you do. You lean in a little bit more because you can't just talk at them for 7 steps and miss what they do. So you have brackets around the 7-step conversation. One is what's most important. You lean in on it in the 7 steps. When you're done, did I leave any stone unturned? Is there anything that you didn't hear that you wanted to hear? And usually it's so thorough, it's no, right? Great. Let me show you the math, right? Yeah, and then you just get into the analysis and you go through that stuff and let her have her process, right? And it's really like, hey, listen, here's the range that we thought you could trade in. And again, I haven't been inside, so caution, let's take a look at this. But don't forget, I'm expecting that you had a seller qualifying questionnaire filled out and you know what she's hoping to get. Or at least you have the expired. So don't be too snarky on the low end. It's fair enough. It's fair enough. Yeah, I think there's an intuitive part to it. I think if you skip a step, you're dead based on the circumstances. I think as long as you stay in a framework that you're going to set yourself up for failure by not knowing what she hopes it's worth. And if you start to have to ask a lot of those questions before you go through this, it's a little bit awkward, right? It's a little bit awkward. I'm not saying you can't do it, but hey, before I go through my stuff, there was a couple things I wanted to get. When we talked, there was why, there was this motivation, but what I didn't ask you is, I see that you expired this. What were you hoping to get for the property? What did you pay for it? What'd you buy? So those are more pestering questions when you're trying to present your wares. I think you lose something. Yeah, I think you lose something. Well, hold on. Well, hold on. Look at her. Well, you're right. Her perception is her perception, and they all, as you're already learning, as somebody young in this business, it's they those are the default mechanisms. It's the marketing, right? They go to that. They didn't market my house. Well, most of these people don't even have a clue what marketing is, let alone how it actually works in this business. Because marketing in this business is very much price driven. You can thump and thwart any fantastic marketing effort with the wrong price, which is why in the 7 steps we talk about pricing it right first, because without that, marketing's a moot point. It just doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter. You're not going to sell a house if you're way outside of the quantitative side of this business, right? So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, at the end of the day, that's the first time I think I've ever gone into a house and said, instead of lower the price, yes, you should do this project because your house is too small. right? And you have the room, and you can do it for 10 grand, good for you. That's a big value add. That's the first time I've ever gone into a house and said that. Mm, yeah, it does. Yeah, 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 it's very awkward, so yeah, good. Yep, yeah. Yeah, well, just again, stick to the plan. You got the package out. You have to let the package do its job. The package you have to remember is a benevolent Trojan horse, meaning it gets through the defenses, it gets opened up by somebody who's consuming it. They see that it's educational. Also, you drive by, you take pictures so that when you follow up to confirm that it's there, it's a system for a reason. Yeah, but you just I don't know. You know, you spoke with her. I wouldn't be right on top of the back end of Christmas if she wanted a little bit of breathing room, but I wouldn't wait too long. And people make decisions, right before and after the New Year resolutions, right? But what I would say is that I think I have to remind you all, the package of information is the warm-up thing that we give them to educate them. The upsell, which is still free, is your insights on tips on what to do and what not to do, and most importantly, a quantitative analysis, which nobody does but this group. Nobody. Nobody does it that way, right? So I think that if you will stick to those things and you will get there with them, then you know you that's the uniqueness, and that's how to get in the door. Say, listen, you only have the information. You don't have my analysis, and I can't do that properly without an invite into the house. Still don't have to hire me, but you got to let me in the house to do the analysis. And I'm going to leave you way better than I found you with that, because it's going to show you a range within which you probably sell and what you'd walk away with. And I know nobody's done that for you. So you have to be adamant about that upsell, and that's how you get in the house. But they don't just let us in the house, right? We have to earn our way in the house by legitimizing who we are, with not just sounding nice, but fulfilling that Amazon fulfillment moment when that package shows up and it's actually helpful and it's actually well thought out and it did take time, money, energy, and effort. Then you can earn that next, opportunity, right? Have you looked at hold on, stop. Have you looked at the 3-point marketing plan infographic? Because that's your answer. Okay, so you don't know that there's a 3-point marketing plan infographic and a long list of luxury details? Okay, so that's a no. Okay, just say no, because 'cause you're looking like a deer in the headlights. So, there's another on the Teachable site, I know for sure, there's the 3-point marketing plan. If you go to the 7-step plan and you scroll down, it's there. So that is the outline for your answer, and then if you don't see a really detailed Griffin luxury marketing plan, which has a lot of details under each one of those even further, it's an exhausting answer to the question, so go look at it. Yep. You're welcome. Good. All right, what else tonight? Other questions? Okay, yep, go ahead, Alexis first, and then Jackie, and I see your sister's out there too. That's so exciting. Go ahead, Alexis. Fire away. Yep. Okay, all right, hold on. You know, you follow up with clients, prospects, or leads? Okay. Well, not your leads, so forget those. Take 2 weeks off. They're not going anywhere, but your prospects, I would make sure I put a touch on the most important ones before I took the 2 weeks. Not unless it's contextually important to do so. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's white hot ready to become a client, yes, but it not if not, just catch them at the beginning and then after. Yep, you're welcome. Yep, 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 yep. Got it. Yep, yep, yep. Not unless they've been qualified. Don't waste your time. You're wasting time with people like an old database of people, which, the irony on that is it can last years and lead you nowhere. I remember a moment like this where, I just dumped a whole bunch of people. Laura and I were looking at each other. We had an old software called Agent Office, and we had put a lot of this is where we learned it, right? We'd put a lot of this distress sale marketing out there, and we had all these buyers, and we just kind of looked at each other in an exasperated way, and we had just started Infusionsoft, and I looked at her, I said, I'm done. I said, I don't mind starting all over again. I'm done. I'm not going back in there and chasing all these people. So um, God bless you for wanting to go after his database, but I thought it was largely filled with crap to begin with. So I don't, just because somebody's opening emails religiously doesn't qualify them as avatar. I think if you could look at a database filled with people that you're not sure of, because I get this problem almost every week with people that, either come to me like this or whatever the case is, right? So they've got all this stuff in front of them. And ultimately, um, you have to find some redeeming qualities about a lead. And if they're opening emails, what emails? Are they properties? If they're not properties, they might just be lonely and bored or whatever, right? So what you do is you make an offer to the people that are opening emails. Hey, listen, you know, I'd like to offer you pictures and details of properties that sold. So you can make the offer. You can cut and paste the buyer offer and seller offer if you have any seller leads, and just make it and see who takes it, right? And if they're opening emails, turn the offer, the script, into an email and make the offer. Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, you're chasing ghosts. You're better off to go into the MLS, find expireds, go online, find some, FISBOs, and just pick one or two a week or whatever, and just go after them, just like the plan that says. We have a tactical plan that lays that out, one a week. In fact, I'm going to cheat that for a second and show it. Um, let me show my screen for a second. I guess I got to do my whole. Can I do a window like this? Hang on. Well, they do, but yeah, but again, that's the resistance. That's what I tell you about. You're going to lose. You're not going to win every week. But what do you do with a system? You come back to it. So here's something that I just did with this tactical stuff. Right? I did this on Thursday's call. I'm sorry, Tuesday's call. I really said, listen, new business development comes around listing acquisition. Can you see my, sorry, I forgot to do this for the people on will watch on YouTube. Hang on. Forgot the YouTube people. Bear with me there. Um, okay. So if I show you this, here's the problem. You get up to the mindset first, and you know what's going to happen is you're going to feel resistance. So the war of art explains that's an internal battle. You're not getting rid of that. It's human. Psycho-cybernetics gives you some ways to overcome that, which is just seeing yourself doing the right thing. So if you go in the thriving brain order, what you did was you're ready for the preparation phase. You've got your seller plan, market update, list of solds, and your flat envelopes, right? Then you have to say, okay, I got to choose an expired or FISBO, like I just said. Monday comes, I pick one at or above the median in the geography. I prepare the seller package and I add it to the contact pipeline manager. Off I go, right? I'm ready to go. The ideal thing, and you're not going to be able to do this when you go to Belize, is door knock. 5 days in a row, trying to make a face-to-face offer using the script. You get to the end of the 5 days, doesn't work, you can move them into a telemarketing phase. 5 days of calling to make the ear-to-ear offer following the script. If not, at the very, very end, you can take the original package because it has a cover letter that's copywritten. You can send it. Then I have these follow-up letters that you can send. It's, hey, I'm concerned you didn't get it. I'm wondering why you didn't call me back. You're not alone if you think you are. Other people have done this, right? Now, that's the thriving brain order. Door knock, telemarket, mail. But you big chickens, I know what's going to happen because the resistance is so strong. I've even said to people, if you really just are not going to do any of this, mail it. Pick one a week and mail it, because the worst case scenario, you're going to have ended up mailing about 44 of these things, right? And then do the follow-up letters. And then maybe call them to see if they got it, and maybe door knock. But I doubt you're going to do certainly this. Maybe you'll do this, but at least you did this, right? So that's the deal I made with the devil, to be tactically like that, okay? But other than that, your brain, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting you down, is already messing with you. Why in the world would you have gone through all that trouble to get his database of people? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. How many are there? Yeah. You have a zero chance of going through those. None. Zero. You have none. It's just not going to happen. The brain will see 500 and it's zero. You could pick some, but I just gave you a plan to be intentional about stuff as it comes on and to get in a rhythm. I know what happens here. Nothing. Nothing happens. I coached him too. Nothing happened. Right? Nothing happened. A lot of back and forth. Nothing happened. I cannot, in good faith anymore, tell people to do anything other than what's up on the screen. Right? Nothing. I mean, if somebody comes to me with some buyer lead generation going on, I can try to help with that because some of it's there. Eliminate everybody below the median, make a very clear offer, clear, strong offer, but you got to get them on the phone. Otherwise, forget it. Right? So what I'm telling you is up on the board. This is the only thing in the long run that's going to keep you in this business. Plus your sphere of influence that you would have, that you can, keep your market update in front of them. Hey, if you know anybody that's thinking about selling, I have a package, buying, I have a package. And then as these, listings get done, these open houses, there's no other way that this business works. It just doesn't. Yeah, just doesn't. So I hate to be the bearer of reality, but that's reality. That's reality. Yep. Yep. Well, again, everything I just showed, nothing's going to change. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna change. So, okay, that's great. Love Tosh. Would love to hear what she wants to do, what she doesn't want to do, but I'm not gonna change anything I just said. Everything's gonna be the same, right? We're gonna have to go at it just the same way that we do. I think that's the thing that and again, it's let me just bring it up because I'm talking about it so much. So let me just do the tab. Hang on for the YouTube gang. I got to do that there too. Where are my tabs? Let me see if I can bring it up here. Yeah. I'm going to say that this book right here is, he said, hang on, it's buried down here in all these tabs that are open. Hang on, weirdly, it's not showing. Okay, there we go. That book right there is probably now my number one recommendation to start. Psycho-Cybernetics is my favorite because it's a how-to book. But if you don't understand why you're talking like you're talking tonight versus saying, hey, Tasha's going to get her license and we're going to pick a FISBO and expired and we're going to call and door knock that FISBO and expired. Here's why, right? Here's why. And there's a reason a guy just dumped 500 names because he couldn't convert them. He didn't want to. He's not really, his heart's not in this business anyway. And it hasn't been for as long as I've probably known him. Because I think there was a window where guys like Josh could skim the buyer cream off the top, when those leads first started happening. Now you can't. You can't. It just doesn't happen like that. And internet beginnings for anything, an internet-based lead to begin with is always tough, right? See, what I like about expireds and FISBOs, they're out there struggling. And so when you bring them information, it's well met when they're a good avatar, very well met. And if you just follow up, nobody else is. So that's the shortest path between you and success in this business. So everything else is an animal brain trick. Yeah, cool. All right, guys and gals. Yep, you're welcome. That's it. Yeah, hi. How are you? Nice to hear from you. Yeah, good. It's been a while. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you did? Killer. Killer. What kind of food? Oh, oh, killer. Awesome. How's it going? Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, good for you. Well, everything's hard. That's what I was just telling your sister. I mean, and the sooner you embrace the hard and you come up with a system to be good at the hard, that's how you make money, right? That's how you do it. Yeah, good. Well, great to hear from you and good to have you back around. Yeah. Uh, yeah, so am I when she told me. Andre, and by the way, everybody, Merry Christmas because we will not be here next week nor New Year. So 2 weeks off here for the holidays because I'm going to run into it. But Andre, that big picture plan that I presented a moment ago, he's still here? Did I lose him? You're here. That, my friend, I can give to you. And you just have to remember that this is going to be an X mind, right? Yeah. Thank you, Phil. You too. Let me see if this can drag over here. Andre, your mic is muted, so I'm just going to assume you're hearing me. Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, buddy. Let me see. Okay. It's really weird. It's not playing nice with me. I tried to drag it in here. Oh, Shauna, appreciate it. Yeah. See you guys on the call. Yeah, weird. It's not letting me put a file in there. So send me an email. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, gang. That's it for me. We'll see you on the other side of the holidays. But I am doing calls the rest of this week too. So if you want to join me on Friday's calls, I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.